Thank you. Thanks, Gaspar. It's an honor to be here, and I want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to come up and tell you a little bit about my story and about the Other Side Academy. First, I would like to assert something bold, and that is even the most broken people can reinvent themselves and become somebody they have never known. It doesn't matter if you've lived your life on the streets, if you've been a lifelong drug addict, or if you've lived your life in and out of jails and prisons. Anybody can change. I know this because I was one of those people. I was a lifelong drug addict. I'd spent almost 20 years of my life in and out of jails and prisons until I got the opportunity to do something different. Today, I am the manager of the Other Side Academy. And before we get to that part, I haven't always been the manager of the Other Side Academy. My journey began when I was about 11 years old. I was the kid that would steal alcohol out of my dad's alcohol bottle. I would replace it with water, and I continued to do that. He'd come home from work, and he'd want to drink at night. Couldn't realize why he wasn't getting drunk anymore because his son was stealing all of his alcohol. That led to smoking cigarettes, and soon I was smoking pot. By 13 years old, I had done my first line of cocaine. At 13, I was the kind of kid that would go to school. I would sit in the back of my history class. I'd have a vial of Coke in my pocket. I'd have the pen, and I'd sit there, and I'd pour it in between the pages, and I'd pull the pen apart, and I'd snort Coke in class. I did that all the way through high school. How I made it is still a mystery to me. Not that it mattered because I didn't do much with my life after that. Soon after I graduated from high school, I found methamphetamine, and I thought methamphetamine had saved my life because it got me off cocaine. Nothing could have been farther from the truth. Started doing meth on a regular basis, started committing crimes, and not long after that, I found myself getting arrested. I did a 2-year prison term, and all of this happened in Orange County, California. I did a 2-year prison term, got out for 49 days. Did a 5-year prison term, got out for 60 days. Did a 6-year prison term, got out for 4 months, then did a 10-year prison term. So it was 2, then 5, then 6, then 10. Can anybody guess what happened after that 10-year prison sentence? I got busted again. This time I was looking at the rest of my life in prison. The offer in Orange County was 29 years. So I would have lived in prison, and I was going to die in prison. I was broken, I was tired, and I was scared. So I knew I needed to do something, I just didn't know what to do. And I wrote Delancey Street a letter, and Delancey Street accepted me. But the judge, in no uncertain terms, told me I was not Delancey Street material, and he would never allow me to go to Delancey Street. So one day I was sitting in my cell, I was just fighting my case for a long time, hoping to get it from 29 years down to something manageable, like maybe 15. So it would have been 2, then 5, then 6, then 10. Had he offered me 15, I probably would have signed that deal. But I decided to write that judge a letter. And I never told him he was wrong in his assessment of me. But I told him my earliest memory until the day that I wrote that letter. One day I went to court. I had no idea what to expect. Sitting in the box, fully shackled. And he said, "Mr. Durocher, against my better judgment, I'm going to give you the opportunity, and I'm going to send you to Delancey Street." He said, "But you're going to plead guilty today to all of your charges." They had gone from 29 down to 22. And I pled guilty to my charges. He said, "When you get kicked out of Delancey Street or you split, I've got you for the rest of your life." I don't know if you've ever felt vertigo when you get good news or bad news and you're not really sure and you kind of get dizzy. That is how I felt. I was about to get released from the county jail after looking at the rest of my life in prison to go to Delancey Street and had the opportunity to do something different with my life. So I went there, and instead of staying for 2 years, I stayed for 8.5 years. The last 5 of which I managed the Los Angeles facility, upwards of 250 residents at any given time. When I graduated, I got a remarkable job in Southern California doing some construction. And although I loved going to work every day, I did not like my job. There was a hole in my belly. I missed the people part. I missed helping people like me get from where I was to where I had gotten. So through a very serendipitous chain of events, Joseph Grenny, our founder, reached out to me. He had already gone to Delancey Street and did the replication training in San Francisco, and he wrote the book, The Influencer, that featured Mimi Silbert. He said, "Mr. Durocher, can we meet you? We'd like to bring you out to Salt Lake City and possibly start a replication of Delancey Street. Would you be interested?" You better believe I was. They flew to Los Angeles, we met, and today, in Salt Lake City, we've got a facility. We have 82 students currently that would otherwise be on the streets, in jails, or in prison. There's a couple of very unique things about the Other Side Academy that sets us apart from your run-of-the-mill programs today. First of all, it's a minimum 2 years long. Unlike most that are 30, 60, or 90 days, it's a minimum 2-year stay. It is absolutely free to the student. If you write us a letter from jail and we interview you, or if you walk in of your own accord and take a seat on our bench and we interview you, you start that day. We know we need no money from the government, nothing from the city, nothing from the county, nothing from the state, nothing from the federal government. So people often ask, well, then how do you do it? We have our own vocational training schools that generate our revenue. So the minute the student comes to the Other Side Academy, they become part of the solution rather than part of the problem. No money from rich mommy and daddy, no money from insurance companies. That's when the magic happens. When you go to a lot of other programs, and although they've got merit, what are the odds that a guy like me, after 25 years of drug addiction and criminal behavior, is ready on day 30, day 60, or day 90? At the Other Side Academy, you stay until you are ready. Whether it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or I'm a slow learner, I was in Delancey Street for 8.5 years, whether it's 8.5, you stay in that community until you've recalibrated your moral compass and you're ready to reintegrate back into the community and become a productive member, living a value-centered life of integrity. That is hard to do in a short program, and I'm living proof that it works. In Delancey Street, they've graduated over 25,000 people back into the community. Right now at the Other Side Academy in Salt Lake City, we've been in operation now for 2.5 years. We've got 21 graduates. All 21 currently are doing exceptionally well. We realize that won't last. You know, people are going to fall off again. But right now, we're 21 for 21. It is a community for the most broken people among us, the most marginalized population, people who have been arrested countless times. Our average student's been arrested 26 times. 26. I would have been arrested that many times too, but I was a terrible criminal. Every time I got arrested, I went to prison, so the arrest went down. But these are the people that we help. All of my students have been to either one, and in some cases up to 15 of the other programs, and failed them miserably. So we give them the opportunity to come to a safe place, a sanctuary, where they can get into the mode of doing the right thing every day for a long period of time until they change. Not until they get clean and sober. We can do that all day long by locking them up. They get clean and sober in jail. What's the first thing they do when they leave? Go right back to the Connect's house, because nothing changes if nothing changes. So we're hoping to bring the Other Side Academy to San Diego. This is a wonderful, wonderful community. It's very redemptive. What a beautiful place to bring the Other Side Academy. There are tens of thousands of people just like me in this community who need something like this. And I think it's safe to say that everybody is trying to get to heaven in one way, shape, or form. There are many different ways to get there. And I think TOSA, or the Other Side Academy, happens to be the way for our population. Thank you.